A reading from Romans 8, beginning at verse 12. So then, brothers, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with him, in order that we may also be glorified with him. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption, and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. Now, hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Paul here is dealing with hope. And hope is a word that conjures up all sorts of evocative images in our minds. Perhaps you might think of those Christmas Eves of your childhood as you went to bed and went to sleep hoping that some particular present or other might appear under the Christmas tree. Maybe you can think back to the exams you took and hope that you may have performed rather better than the revision that you did would qualify you to do. And so it is that hope in our way of thinking has a kind of vagueness to it, a kind of wistfulness to it. We hope that something may happen, but it may not. We hope that something might come to pass, but we kind of fear it may not. There's a shadow of doubt that falls across the word hope. The problem is when it comes to Greek, the word which we're translating as hope here, elpis, doesn't have that same kind of connotation. You can look at the standard Greek dictionaries or lexicons and they will talk about expectation. So in other words, it's not a vague thing, but an anticipation of something. It's not just hoping vaguely that something may show up at your doorstep, but knowing that it will because you've ordered it, you've seen the money go out of your account, and you've had a text to say that the courier is on the way. Which is why in the Old Book of Common Prayer, in the funeral service, it talks about a sure and certain hope of the resurrection to come. It is sure and it is certain. So when we see the word hope used in the Bible, we need to have a much greater sense of security about it. Anyway, back to this then passage as a whole that Paul is talking about with that kind of hope in mind. You may remember in the previous passage, Paul was talking about the experience that we have of wanting with our minds to do the things that are good, wanting with our spirit to do the things that are good, but finding that in the end we do the things we don't want to do, that our flesh, if you like, drags us down. And so Paul is carrying on in this thought, and he's saying to us that we can though have certainty, even though we experience these kinds of struggles. And he talks about us being adopted, and he talks about us being sons of God, i.e. like Christ, through that adoption. And this spirit of adoption then that Paul is talking about, the one by which we can cry out, Abba, Father, when we struggle, when we can seek for help, well, that certificate of adoption is a legal document. You are adopted whether you feel happy or not, whether at times you feel fully embraced or not, you are still adopted because you have that certificate of adoption. And so Paul is saying when we are struggling with things, well then we must realise that we have the Spirit of God within us, and so we can cry out, Abba, Father, and seek God's help, knowing, having a sure and certain hope that we are God's, and that we are not, therefore, simply abandoned by God because we are His. And this should be a comfort to us, that our salvation doesn't rely upon feelings, but rather relies upon the mercy of God. But maybe you are concerned that you don't have this Spirit of God, which you need, this sign and seal of our adoption. Well, I would like to say that if you're worried about not following God closely enough, if you're worried about the fact that you're doing things that you know are wrong and you're trying not to, but still you do them, well, then might not that be a sign that God is working within you, that you do have that spirit of adoption? But anyway, back to the passage. Paul in all of this is saying, yes, we struggle, but we nonetheless have a sure and certain hope that we are God's. And let that sure and certain hope be your anchor as you struggle through life, as you seek to do the things that God commands you to do. And then be jubilant that your salvation doesn't lie upon your feelings or your own ability, but rather on the steadfastness of God and what He has already done for us. Amen.